Most religions start with this core message of unity, right? But if you look at history, they so often end up fracturing into all these different competing groups. So how could a faith that started in the 19th century actually design a system to prevent that from happening? Well, today we're diving into the Bahá'í Covenant, a really unique blueprint that was built specifically to maintain unity.
It's a question you see pop up again and again throughout history. A visionary founder passes away, and what was this one unified movement just splinters. People start arguing about who should lead next or what the teachings really meant, and those fractures can last for centuries. So you have to wonder, is there any way to build a faith that's actually immune to that kind of division?
We see this pattern everywhere. Without a crystal clear plan for what comes next, human ambition and simple disagreements tend to take over, and that can splinter a community. Now, the founders of the Bahá'í Faith were super aware of this problem, and they tried to solve it right from the very beginning.
Their answer, for Baha'is anyway, is this institution they call the Covenant. And it's not just some vague promise. Oh no, it's a specific, structured mechanism that's meant to be the absolute bedrock of the entire faith. So at its heart, a covenant is not a one-way street. It's a binding, two-way promise. From this point of view, God provides guidance and blessings, and in return, humanity agrees to follow that guidance. This whole idea of a reciprocal relationship, it's totally central to everything that's coming up next. Wow. This is a seriously powerful statement from Abdul-Baha, who was the founder's son and his appointed successor. He is not mincing words here at all. For him, the covenant is the only thing, the only power capable of holding the community together. It's the central pillar that keeps the whole thing from collapsing. And this fortified fortress analogy really gets to the core of what the covenant is for. It's designed to be a protective shield, right? A preemptive measure built by the founder to guard the integrity of his teachings and, crucially, the unity of his followers long after he was gone.
Okay, so how does this fortress actually work? Well, the concept is built on two distinct but totally related agreements, what they call the Greater Covenant and the Lesser Covenant, and understanding the difference between them is absolutely key.
The big difference here is really about scale. So think of the Greater Covenant as universal and timeless. It's this overarching promise that God will always send guidance to humanity. It's the big picture. The Lesser Covenant, on the other hand, is specific to each religion. It's kind of like the instruction manual a prophet leaves behind for their own followers, laying out a super clear line of authority. So from the Bahá'í perspective, this Greater Covenant is a pattern that you see repeated all throughout sacred history. Each prophet foretells the coming of the next one, creating this unbroken chain of divine revelation. Bahá'u'lláh is seen as the fulfillment of all these past promises, and in turn makes his own promise for a distant future, making sure that chain just keeps on going.
Okay, so if the Greater Covenant is the promise of what comes next, the Lesser Covenant is the practical instruction on who leads next. And this is where the system gets incredibly specific to make sure there's no confusion.
This verse from Bahá'u'llah's most holy book, the Kitab-i-Aqdas, is foundational. He's being completely explicit here, telling his followers that after he's gone, they shouldn't just follow their own ideas. Nope, they have to turn to a specific individual, a successor, who hath branched from this ancient root. This is what sets the stage for a designated, clear transfer of power. And here it is, that transfer of power in action. It's a clear, documented chain. Baha'u'lláh appoints Abdul-Baha in a written will. Then Abdul-Baha in his will appoints his grandson Shoghi Effendi. And both of them lay the groundwork for the Universal House of Justice, which is an elected council that leads the community today. The key to all of it is that it's all in writing, so there's no guesswork involved. None. And this, right here, is what Baha'is see as the game changer. The whole goal is to avoid a broken chain of command. They believe this documented will and testament style of succession, where power is explicitly handed down in black and white, is what makes their covenant so unique and what prevents the kind of ambiguity that can lead to a schism. Which brings us right back to where we started. All of these mechanisms, the definitions, the written wills, the designated interpreters, they're all working towards one ultimate goal, creating a form of unity that, in theory, cannot be broken. So what's this all for?
Well, it's about creating a central, authoritative pillar that everyone can turn to. This system is designed to protect the original teachings from just anyone's personal interpretation, to resolve disputes, and to provide a divinely guided institution, the universal house of justice, that can apply these timeless principles to the problems of our constantly changing world.
And this quote from Bahá'u'lláh really just captures the intended power and permanence of this whole system. The goal was to build something on an unassailable and enduring foundation, something strong enough to withstand the storms of human conflict and disagreement, not just for a few years, but for centuries to come.
So this leaves us with a really interesting thought. The Bahá'í Covenant is a specific religious concept, for sure, but its core principle is pretty universal. Whether we're talking about a faith, a business, or any kind of community, could a clearly written institutional plan for succession and authority actually be the ultimate key to lasting unity? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us.